It all kicked off in 1953, behind closed doors at the Rand Corporation in Santa Monica. The key architects, led by chemist Dr. Willard Libby and Rand analysts, were focused on one invisible threat: strontium-90 fallout. The US Atomic Energy Commission launched a secret research program, Project Sunshine, under the cold scientific guidance of Nobel laureate-to-be Dr. Willard Libby. The official mission? A global contamination survey. The secret one, outlined in the classified Rand report R251, required one crucial thing: human tissues. Because strontium-90 mimics calcium and lodges itself in growing bone, the project deliberately targeted the most sensitive biological source: infants and young children. Across the world, from the Philippines to Puerto Rico, from London to Hong Kong, the collection began. Their cover story? A polite lie. Their goal? To measure the invisible poison accumulating in the bodies of the dead. The architects of the program knew the ethical optics were ruinous, and they planned accordingly. On October 16, 1953, AEC official Robert A. Shipman wrote to Dr. Libby, stressing the need for absolute secrecy. He explicitly stated, "The real purpose will, of course, remain secret." The cover story? That the AEC was conducting a worldwide survey for radium in human bones. A convenient lie used to get cooperation from hospitals and funeral homes. From 1954 into the early 1960s, the collection network spread globally. Bones were shipped to the Health and Safety Laboratory in New York from nearly 150 collection sites across at least 21 different countries and territories. The list spanned continents: Houston, Buenos Aires, London, Hong Kong, Manila, Johannesburg. The priority wasn't just any bones, but the most critical bones of the young. Internal documents requested vertebrae from children under 5 years old. It was a paper trail built entirely on cold calculation and codified deception. Nearly 1,500 skeletal samples, children, infants, tiny bodies torn from their rest for science and secrecy. And it gets darker. At an AEC meeting on January 18, 1955, Dr. Willard Libby, who would later win the Nobel Prize in 1960, admitted the moral tightrope they were walking. He told the assembled officials, "So human samples are of prime importance, and if anybody knows how to do a good job of body snatching, they will really be serving their country." This desperation was fueled by Cold War fear that the Soviet Union's hydrogen bomb tests were dusting the world and American children with invisible poison. To justify the operation, Libby confirmed they'd hired an expensive law firm, not to stop the project, but to find how far they could push it without legal penalty. For the architects of Project Sunshine, legality was secondary to data. The orders were blunt. Take vertebrae, take them discreetly, claim it was radium analysis. No consent, no explanation, just bones and numbers. Every piece was logged, catalogued, and shipped to New York's Health and Safety Laboratory. There, the remains were incinerated at high temperatures and chemically analyzed to extract the invisible poison, turning human tissue into pure scientific data. Records showed shocking specificity: a rib from a Harvard man, the remains of a stillborn baby in Chicago. And the results? The analysis confirmed their greatest fear: the concentration of strontium-90 in the bones of children born during nuclear testing was 50 times higher than in pre-test samples. It proved fallout didn't just linger in the atmosphere. It had lodged itself in the bones of the most vulnerable generation. Officially, the data was a triumph. The AEC could now prove, with cold specific numbers, that atmospheric testing was a global radiological hazard. This wasn't abstract theory. It was proof. Strontium-90 could be found in every corner of the planet. But the declassified memos tell a darker truth. This wasn't a triumph of science. It was a calculated exploitation of the dead. The reckoning didn't come until 1995, over 40 years later. President Bill Clinton's Advisory Committee on Human Radiation Experiments reviewed the entire project. Their final report was damning. Project Sunshine was unethical and an abuse of institutional power. Yet, despite the formal finding, no prosecutions, no new laws, no justice. Scientifically, though, the stolen data achieved the impossible. The cold, hard numbers gave policymakers irrefutable proof, enough to justify the Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty of 1963, banning atmospheric nuclear tests worldwide. The children's bones became the silent, unwilling testimony that stopped the global fallout. The world never truly knew the full story until decades later. Families remained unaware, communities untouched by apology. The ethical questions linger, and what was the human cost? The bones, once silent testimony to nuclear fallout, became historical evidence of a program that valued science and national security over humanity. The government was caught. The ACHRE report exposed the truth. Yet the price of this deception was a devastating trifecta of inaction. No prosecutions, no apologies, no memorials. Dr. Willard Libby, the man who told scientists to master body snatching, went on to win the Nobel Prize and never offered a word of regret. The families of the dead received no official apology. And to this day, there's no memorial for the anonymous victims of the Cold War's most unethical experiment. The 1,500 remains collected in the 1950s were never identified, notified, or returned. Because the government failed, deliberately, to keep family records, those children remain anonymous victims to this day. Project Sunshine stands as a chilling reminder of Cold War extremities. A government so obsessed with data, it sanctioned global non-consensual bone collection. The precedent is clear. Secrecy, science, and power can turn ordinary men into monsters. History recovered here, on React and Regret. The children of Project Sunshine were reduced to data points, but their story is their memorial, and it must never be forgotten. If you found this worth your time, hit subscribe and share it, because your support is what keeps these forgotten stories alive.